Good evening, good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Can you hear me, people? Hello? Write a yes if you could hear me.
This is audible. Talk to people about themselves and they will listen for hours. Make the other person feel important.
If you could hear me. Am I audible to all of you? Am I loud and clear?
This is audible. Talk to people about themselves and they will hours.
Hello, everyone. Please let me know if you can hear me, guys. Prithvi, good afternoon, dear. I hope you're doing good. Welcome to today's session. I'll just wait for a couple of seconds. VM, good afternoon. Very good afternoon to you. I started off with good morning and then hello. It's always morning with me over here. Morning is very positive. Okay. So here we are with yet another very exciting session on popular questions from CAT previous year questions, and we are going to discuss a few non-contemporary questions today, which you might have come across while solving your CAT question paper from CAT 2005, 6, 7, 8 onwards. All right, and then I will take you through the questions that were asked on para summary and para jumbles. Okay, so the session is going to be really exciting. All right, so let us start the session today, guys. It is going to be critical reasoning, and before we venture out to have a look at the questions, this is how we are going to be placed for this week and onwards till 21st. We are going to have sessions on last lap to CAT, an unmissable session for those who are actually in the last lap of preparation. Okay, so 7 p.m. we are going to be live with you people, discussing all the nuances and the important questions, skills and techniques that you need to understand and master in order to score absolutely stunningly in CAT. Okay, so 7 p.m. remember the time. Please make sure that you are with us and we will get going with the discussion. Okay, so if you find this session beneficial, I hope you like the session, you find the session beneficial and it adds to your learning. Please don't forget to subscribe the channel, press the bell icon and share the same with your friends. Okay, with that being said, let us move towards the first page of the presentation. So I am trying to serve on the platter a smorgasbord of critical reasoning questions. All right, I will try to give you the different types of critical reasoning questions which were asked in the past CAT papers, and they might make a comeback. Just a might I am adding, so that you are not caught on the back foot. You're not surprised if suddenly you find such questions appearing in CAT 21. So what are we going to deal with today? We are going to talk about a couple of strengthened questions, weakened questions, questions based on inference, how to complete a theme, if a sentence is a fact or an inference or a judgment, how to find that out, para summary questions, and a couple of para jumble questions. Okay, so this is how we are going to be placed today. I hope you will enjoy the session. So let's begin. Here we have the very first question of the day. Look at the question stem. We have a paragraph followed by an option, followed by a question, and the question has 4 options. So what is the question? The question is, which of the following can be assumed from the above passage? So very clearly it is understood that we are talking about an assumption based question. So we have a case in our hand. We have this character Mrs. Ghosh was running late for work. वो late हो रही थी, right? And left the house so precipitously that she left the water running and all the lights on. She was in a hurry. Okay, precipitously means urgently. Okay, just in case you want the meaning, it's urgently. Okay, or in a hurry. Jaldibazi mein thi wo. She was in a hurry. Probably whatever the reason was, but she was in a hurry. And in that, in a hurry, she was in a hurry. So what did she do? She left the water running and all the lights on. What can we assume from it? So look at the question. We have a premise over here. We talk about Mrs. Ghosh. She was running late, premise number 1, and she left the water running and all the lights on. You have the options right in front of you. What does the option tell you? Leaving water running and lights on can be expensive if done regularly. 2 says Mrs. Ghosh thought it was important not to be late. And 3 says Mrs. Ghosh was afraid of being late, fearing she might be fired. Mrs. Ghosh is not a good organizer of her times. What can be assumed? Remember, assumptions are hidden premises. Okay, premise is something which cannot be challenged, right? A premise is a sentence which has to be accepted in reasoning and we cannot challenge it. And when the premise is absent, right, because we know that you have understood it, that becomes an assumption. So a hidden premise is an assumption. So what was going on in the author's mind when he said so? Mrs. Ghosh was running late for work and left the house so precipitously that she left the water running and all the lights on. We will try to answer the question in the next 15 seconds, all right? And then I will discuss the question with you. Any answer forthcoming? What could be the answer, guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Leaving water running and the lights on can be expensive if done regularly. Is this an assumption? Mrs. Ghosh thought it was important not to be late. Is this an assumption? Mrs. Ghosh was afraid of being late, fearing she might be fired. Can we think of this sentence to be an assumption? Or 4, Mrs. Ghosh is not a good organizer of her time. So here we go with the first answer. It is 2. All right. Let us check the facts. She was running late. Where was she going? If she was running late, probably she may have many other work to attend, right? Besides her job. She left the house in a hurry. Okay, that does not mean that she was being afraid of being late, right? That does not mean that she was afraid that she might be fired. We do not know. Nothing in the question tells us that she was going to work, right? We can assume that she thought it was important not to be late, and that was going on at the back of her mind. Okay, the author assumed that she thought it was important not to be late and she was getting late, so in a hurry, right, she left her house in a wonderful chaos. All right, so 2 should have been the option. 1 is out of question. This is absolutely, it cannot be derived from the passage. Mrs. Ghosh is not a good organizer. This is something which we cannot assume. This is far-fetched. Okay, just because one odd day Mrs. Ghosh got late, that does not mean वो अच्छी organizer नहीं है. So we stick to option 2. Between 2 and 3, 2 is a better choice. So this was the answer for the first question. I hope you understood the concept. This is one way of looking at the critical reasoning questions. Okay, let us try one more. Here we go. So what is the question? The question says, which of the following most weakens the plan of action? Now we are dealing with strengthen, weaken question. We are talking about plan of action of the school to combat low attention levels of the students. So by reading the question, you can very well understand what is the content of the passage, right? So let's try and understand the content of the passage, and then we will talk about the question. Can we do that? We have 15 seconds to answer this question. We will try to hurry up so that we could have ample time for discussion. All right? Okay, let's get going. Hi Priyanshi, good afternoon. Siddharth, good afternoon. Welcome on board. Okay. Now let us read the question together. What does the question tell us? We are talking about schools. Schools in a major city. So quite a few schools in a major city. So let's understand, we are not talking about one odd school. It is schools in general. We are talking about schools in general. So recently schools in a major city have decided to ban the use of mobile phones by students. Premise number one. The schools have decided to ban the use of mobile phones. Premise number one. Okay. Fact number one. And this is something which is worth noting while they are at school. School के बाहर क्या करते हैं? We are not bothered. The school authority is not bothered. Okay? None of their business. So while being at school, the students are not allowed to use mobile phones. And what is the reason? What is the school's contention? Look at the word contention. What is the argument? So in critical reasoning question, it is important to understand what is the argument, right? What is the argument, right? It is not like a husband-wife's argument going on. Okay, I was watching a stand-up comedy show. So one of the speakers says, "कभी-कभी wife झगड़ा करती है कि बड़े दिन हो गए rehearsal नहीं हुआ, ये warm-up नहीं हुआ." So it is not that kind of argument. All right. So we talk about contention. What is the argument? What is the moot point? What is that school is thinking? The school content that, now here comes the reason, the usage of mobile phones is the only reason behind reduced attention. Please pay attention to this word only. Okay? School ने सोच लिया that only mobile phone is the reason. What is the reason? For reduced attention levels. Okay? There is no other factor. So, if you put a ban on mobile phone, it means if you make the use of mobile phone minimum, then probably the students will get their attention span back. The attention span will come back to the students. They will be more attentive. Okay? And that is the reason they thought of banning the mobile phones while the students are at school. Okay. Siddharth, okay, quick on the uptake. He answers 1. Okay, somebody says 4. So 1 says, let us consider all the options and let us have a fine sense of judgment. What does 1 say? Students in neighboring cities have not been reported to have low attention levels despite having similar mobile usage patterns while at school. Okay, that's a very good point. So if this is true, this will weaken the management's argument. Okay, because we are doing weaken question, remember? Right? 2 says, students in schools of neighboring cities have been reported to have low levels of attention. They have been reported to have low levels of attention despite the fact that they have significantly low levels of mobile phone usage. Despite the fact they have significantly lower level of mobile phones usage. Okay. 3 says, adults have also reported a decline in attention levels due to the increased usage of phones at workplace. And 4 says most of the students at the schools in the major cities spend a lot of their pro-school time watching television or playing video games. Okay, fine. So what could be the answer? So let us go by eliminating the options one by one. 4 talks about what? It talks about post school times, what do the students do post school time, but the passage is about while they are at school, right? And we are getting a lot of extra information watching television and playing video games and stuff, right? Using their, that's what they do. Is this what the contention of the passage? No. 3 talks about adults and not school children. So 3 is also out. Now we are left with 2 very good answer choices. 1 and 2. What does the school decide to do? What have they decided to do? They have decided to put a ban, which means they don't want the students to use mobile phones. Using no mobile phone would bring back the attention, okay, would bring back the focus. That is the school's contention. 1 says schools in neighboring cities have not been reported to have low attention levels despite having similar mobile phone usage patterns while at school. However delicious and tempting this might sound, but look at the school's decision. The decision is to put a ban because the school thinks, the management thinks that if the usage of the mobile phone is low or absolutely, zilch or nothing, probably the students will get back their attention level. They will increase the attention level. So the answer should have been 2 and not 1, because 2 talks about despite the fact that the students have significantly lower levels of mobile phone usage, right? They have still been reported to have low levels of attention. So if this is true, in spite of low level of mobile phone usage, still they have low level of attention. That means putting a ban will hardly serve the purpose, right? So this weakens the argument. 1 was close, but 2 was a better choice of the 2. So over here, 2 should have been the answer. Shivani, you are absolutely right. The answer is 2. Congratulations to you. Okay. That's how we are going to bring home the answer, guys. Okay, remember, a lot depends on your reading, a lot depends on your fine-tuning and how you look at the ideas. Okay, read what is being said, also try to read through what has not been said. Okay, this is an art which you need to inculcate. Okay, what to look at, something which is not said, something which is unsaid. Are we penetrative enough to look at those points, those fine points which the author wants us to understand and infer? So in this question, 2 was a better choice. I hope you've enjoyed the question. The idea is to enjoy the question. Don't get bogged down by the difficulty of the question. No question is difficult. Difficult tab ho jayega jab hum samjhenge nahi. If we understand the question, nothing is difficult. So 2 was the answer choice for you all. Okay. Are we ready to challenge the next question? Are we ready? Here we go. Now, this is a fairly different kind of critical reasoning question. Okay. Those were the days when such questions, a couple of years back, such questions were trending. They were the part and parcel of a CAT examination. Okay. But we have not seen these questions cropping up, right? We have not seen these questions being asked in CAT, but you never know, they might, make a comeback. So what does complete the theme? You have a short passage, okay? And the passage would have a message or a theme. The last sentence of the passage will be deleted. And out of the given option, you have to check which option best completes the theme discussed in the passage. Let us see how the question is going to look like. All right, here we go. So you have a passage. See, the last line is deleted. And then you have 5 options to choose from. Let us see which option do you think is correct and which option completely, complements the theme that is being talked about in the passage. Okay, can we get going with this question? Okay, I'll give you 20 seconds to solve this question. Okay, and then we'll discuss. Quickly key in the answer, guys. What do you think should be the answer? All right, Siddharth? 5. Okay, the others, please quickly key in the answer. Prithvi says 2, Siddharth says 5. All right. I must say you have made good choices, right? Your thinking seems to be in the right place. Okay, so we have seen the lyrics. Let's begin to sing. Okay, let us read the passage very slowly and let's try to understand the perspective of the passage. What does the passage has to tell us? It talks about some relationship. Okay, sambandh, rishte. So, relation between the factory and the dealer are distant and usually strained as the factory tries to force cars on the dealers to smooth out production. Relations between the dealer and the customer are equally strained because dealers continuously adjust prices, make deals to adjust demand with supply while maximizing profits. This becomes a system marked by a lack of long-term commitment on either side, which maximizes feelings of mistrust. In order to maximize their bargaining positions, everyone holds back information. The dealer about the product and the consumer about his true desires. So we are talking about communication gap, mistrust, and how one party does not believe in or trust the other. How do we know that? We are talking about relationship being distant and usually strained. So is it a warm relationship? No, it is a very cold relationship, the most unfriendly relationship. Between whom? Between the factory and the dealer. Okay? Why? Because this is what the factory does. The factory tries to force cars on dealers to smooth out production. Okay? Not good on the part of the factory, but then, as they say, business is a cruel affair. In order to maintain profitability, a factory will do anything that it has to do. Similarly, and since the products or the cars in this case are being pushed to the dealer's warehouse, the dealer and the customer, the relationship between them are equally strained. Why? Because the dealers will do anything possible. Anything possible, for example, adjust prices, makes deal to adjust demand with supply while maximizing profits. Okay. So, and that is why the dealer will try to push the articles, the cars out of his showroom so that he can actually maintain the smooth flow of supply chain. And as a result, what happens? The author says this becomes a system marked by lack of long-term commitment. Lack of long-term commitment, okay? It talks about trust issues. Okay? How do you know? On either side, on the side of the dealer and on the side of the consumer, which maximizes feelings of mistrust. Here we get the word mistrust. In order to maximize their bargaining positions, everyone holds back information. Why would I hold back information? I would do that if I don't trust you. Okay? The dealer about the product, okay, he will do some covert business deals with the dealer, with the consumer, and the consumer, in order to save money, would not be true about his desires, because desires are exclusive and they always come with a price tag, right? You want a big car, you are desirous to have a big car, you have to shell out more money. So as a result, what is happening? When you constantly hide what you want, and I being a dealer constantly hide, the features of my car because I have to push the car out of my showroom. So there is a sense of mistrust building. All right. And that takes us to option 5. As a result, everyone loses in the long run. If there is no trust, you are bound to lose. Okay, the dealer might lose the customer, and the customer might lose out on having a better version of the car. So this was a question taken from CAT 25. Look at one. One talks about deal making. Okay, it becomes rampant. It does become rampant. It is rampant without concern for the customer satisfaction. This is not the theme. The theme was relationship. The theme was the relationship being distant. The theme was, the feeling of mistrust. Okay, so 5 should have been the answer. 2 talks about inefficiencies creeping into the supply chain, right? We are not talking about inefficiencies. It is nowhere mentioned in the passage, so this cannot be the theme of the passage. 3 says, as a result, everyone treats the other as an adversary. This is too strong a term to be used. I may not trust you, but that does not make you my enemy, right? Or me yours. Isn't it? So adversary means opponent or enemy. This is too strong a word to be used in this case. I hope you're getting my explanation. 3 cannot be the option. It is too strong. All right. So between 3 and 5, 3 was a much better choice. Look at 4. 4 talks about fundamental innovations are becoming scarce. Are we talking about innovations anywhere in the passage? No, it is not there. So the best option was 5. It was a question from CAT 2005, guys. Okay, you pick up the paper, you will come across the question. I hope you have understood this question. So as I said, reading between the lines, very important. Connect the dots. How X is different from Y, that difference needs to be understood. Okay, categorically. All right. So is this question understood by all of you? Wasn't this question interesting? Can we solve one more question based on the same theme? Are we ready? Here we go. Let us look at this question. Take your time, keep a steady head, and please answer the question. I hope you will get this one right. Okay, have you read the passage? Please, can you key in the answers quickly? Okay, VM says 3, all right. Three, five, 3, 5. Okay, great answers. Okay, let us try and understand the passage. Right from the beginning, if you read the very first line, you will see that it begins in the first person, I. Okay, so the speaker is important in this case, right? So you can assume that the author happens to be the speaker himself. So what does he say? He says, I am sometimes attacked for imposing rules. Now the very first line gives you the tone of the passage, right? He's complaining, right? He's complaining that people always attack me because they think I impose rules. Okay? And then the next line is very important. He says, nothing could be further from the truth. He says, it is not true. It is a blatant lie, right? He actually defends himself. He says, I don't impose rules. But people, they keep on attacking me for imposing rules. That's what he says. And the second line, the second sentence, he justifies himself. He says, I hate rules. Right? Nothing could be further from truth. I hate rules. All I do is report on how consumers react. He reports, okay, on how consumers react to different stimuli. Okay? I may say to a copywriter, look at the examples. I may say to a copywriter, research shows that commercials with celebrities are below average in persuading people to buy products because people don't believe in celebrities. Okay, so endorsing, if a celebrity endorses a brand, people might not buy them. And then he says, are you sure you want to use a celebrity? It is a question being asked. And then again he says, call that a rule? Are you going to call this a rule? And people attack me for imposing rules. Call that a rule? Or may I say to an art director, he gives another example. Research suggests, look at the word, suggests that if you set the copy in black type on a white background, more people will read it than if you set it in type on a black background. And then there is this line. What could be the next line of the passage? One says, guidance based on applied research can hardly qualify as rules. It means we have to presume that the author or the speaker has given guidance based on applied research. 2 says, thus means therefore, all my so-called rules are rooted in applied research. He talks about rules. He says, my so-called rules, but over here he says, I hate rules. So 2 is clearly contradicting the author or the author's statements. So 2 is out of question. I hope you have understood. A suggestion perhaps, but scarcely a rule. All these can be suggestions. Look at the word. Okay, call that a rule. He's asking a question. These can be my suggestions, but they are not rules. ये साफ साफ कह रहा है कि suggestion हो सकता है, लेकिन rule तो नहीं कह सकते आप इसको. 4 says, such principles are unavoidable. What kind of principles? There's a question mark. Are unavoidable if one wants to be systematic about consumer behavior. What kind of principles does the author or the speaker talk about? Is this clear? 5 says, fundamentally it is about consumer behavior, not about celebrities or typesettings. Does the passage only talk about celebrities or typesettings? These are just examples being taken by the author. This was taken from a CAT 2006 question set, and the answer happens to be 3, a suggestion perhaps, but scarcely a rule. He justifies himself and then he gives the answer, right? He asks question to the audience, to the readers, and then he answers the question himself. He says, it can be a suggestion. ये suggestion हो सकता है, लेकिन rule तो बिल्कुल नहीं हो सकता. All right? That is why 3 should have been the option. Okay? Most of you got this one right. And this one was a fairly easy question. So these questions, should be practiced. One odd question. If you if you find these questions, being a part of CAT 21, you should be able to answer these questions hands down. So this was a set of questions which I thought I should discuss with you, just to give you that, mileage which the others may not get. Okay. Now let's talk about another set of questions in this category. We call them FIJs. तुम्हारे सामने कुछ sentences आएंगे A, B, C, D, और उन sentences को you have to identify whether they are facts, whether they are inferences or judgments. So over here we have spoken about, we have tried to find out what will make a sentence fact or an inference or a judgment. What are facts? It says, which deal with pieces of information that one has heard, seen or read, which are open to discovery or verification. Any sentence which can be verified, any sentence which can be proven becomes a fact. The earth revolves around the sun. This is a fact. Alright. Nehru was the first Prime Minister of independent India. This is a fact. Why? Because these facts can be verified. What is inference? Look at the parameter of a sentence being called an inference. What are the conditions? The condition is, which are conclusions drawn about the unknown on the basis of the known. Conclusion drawn about the unknown on the basis of the known. थोड़ा easy कर देता हूं आपके लिए. मैंने कहा कि next time you switch on the fan, वो चलने लगेगा. If you switch on the fan, वो चलने लगेगा. How do you say so? अगर खराब हो गया तो? मान लो the fan is, it is not functioning. There is some, some technical glitch in the fan. You switch it on, but still, it doesn't work. तुमने ये sentence कब बोला? Based on your past experiences, whenever you have switched on the fan, it has worked. That's why you say, if you switch on the fan, it will work. This is an inference. Why? Because you're actually drawing conclusion of the unknown. You don't know whether the fan will work or not. But based on your experience, right, from the past, you say that if you switch on the fan, it will start working. Such sentences are inferences. Always remember, there's a very fine difference between a sentence being an inference or a fact. Similarly, there's a very fine line between a sentence being an inference or a judgment. What are judgments? Gandhi was a great leader. No other leader in the world happens to be as tall as Gandhi, right? But this sentence is subject to approval or disapproval. People may agree with you, people may not agree with you. So any statement which is open to approval or disapproval are called judgments. All right. So look at the parameter. What does it say? It says which are opinions that imply approval or disapproval of persons, objects, situations or occurrences in the past. So can we attempt some questions based on FIJs? Let's see. This is one question. I hope you will be able to solve this question in no time. Let's have an answer to this question. Diksha, FIJ may not come in CAT, but since it is a part of critical reasoning, I thought I should discuss the question with you. Okay. One pattern cannot be ruled out. In the past couple of CATs, FIJs were absent. But CAT, as they say, it is a game of surprises and unexpected things happening. So just in case, if one odd question crops up this year, you should be ready with the answer or the technique at least. All right, I think you've read the question. Let us do the question together, right? According to all statistical indication, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan has managed to keep pace with its ambitious goals. All right. 2 says the midday meal scheme has been a significant incentive for the poor to send their little ones to school, thus establishing the vital link between healthy bodies and healthy minds. 3 says only about 13 million children in the age group of 6 to 14 years are out of school. And 4 says the goal of universalization of elementary education has to be a prerequisite for the evolution and development of our country. Okay, the sentences are manageable. So can we categorize them into F or I or J, fact, inference or judgment? Okay. We've got an answer over here, Shivani. Okay, 5. VM says 5. All right. About the others, don't be afraid of making a mistake. All right. Please commit to a question. Right. So when you answer, when you are committed to a question, then मजा आएगा बात करने में गलती कहाँ पे की या फिर हम सही हैं. All right. Please answer the questions. Can we have some more answers? Okay, let me show you the answer now. It was 3 IJFJ. Why? Look at 1. 1 says, according to the statistical indications, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan has managed to keep pace with its ambitious goal. So, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan might have started to work in the past sometimes, and based on its past experience and the work it has done till now, you are drawing inference from the past based on their performances. You are saying that they have been able to keep pace with its ambitious goal. So this is an inference, guys. If you look at the next one, the midday meal scheme has been a significant incentive for the poor to send their little ones to school, thus establishing the vital link between healthy bodies and healthy minds. So if the midday meal has been a significant incentive, it must invite the approval or disapproval of people. It is a very personal opinion when you say that one operation or one plan becomes significant or insignificant. So in this case, we are talking about midday meal being a significant incentive. Okay, people may agree with it, people may not agree with it. So this becomes a judgment because it is open to approval and disapproval. All right. 3 talks about data, facts, and figures. Okay, only about 3 million children in the age group of 6 to 14 years are out of school. If this is the data, provided to us, can this be verified? It is subject to verification. And since it is subject to verification, it has to be a fact. Okay. 4 says the goal of universalization of elementary education has to be a prerequisite. It has to be a prerequisite, a completely personal ideology. People may agree with it, people may not agree with it. Hence, it becomes a judgment. Hence, 3 should have been the answer choice. All right. So that's how we're going to look at it. On the similar lines, can we do one more question on FIJ? We will not, waste much time on FIJ. Let us do this question very quickly, and then we'll move on to the other segment. Read through the question and find out which sentence can be a fact. Which sentence can be a fact? Are we ready with the answers? Okay, Darshit says 2. Priyanshi says 2. All right. Quickly, guys, can we have some more answers? This is an interesting question. All right, Shivani. 2225. Okay. Here we go with the answer. A CAT 2006 question. It is JFJI. Judgment, fact, judgment, inference. Now listen to this question. An example. Suppose I tell you, you know what? You should listen to your parents. You should listen to your parents. Don't you think I'm giving an advice to you? Okay. You should study hard. You ought to do the right thing. So whenever I give you an advice, it stems out from my opinion, what I think. Okay. So whenever the technicality is, whenever you come across should or ought to or must, those sentences, they fall under judgment. Okay. It says we should not be hopelessly addicted to an erroneous belief that corruption in India is caused by the crookedness of Indians, right? Quite a fine line of thinking. But again, at the end of the day, it is somebody's opinion. Hence, it is a judgment. Okay. 2 is a no-brainer. The truth is that we have more red tape. We take 89 days to start a business. Australians take 2. We are talking about something which begins with the truth is that. So we don't have to think, it has to be a fact. All right. The Australians take 2. It can be verified. We take 89 days to start a small business. It can be verified. So this happens to be a fact. Then I tell you, honesty is the best policy. What do you have to say to that? Honesty is the best policy. An example. Renan Martin would say it is a universal truth. Okay, honesty is the best policy. Now, if you compare the sun rises in the east with honesty is the best policy, these two sentences, the sun rises in the east. I'm trying to give you a very small, chota wala example. Okay, the sun rises in the east can be verified, right? Hence, it is a fact. But the moment you say honesty is the best policy, this is subject to approval or disapproval. Okay, what if I had said honesty is the worst policy? Even then, it would have been a judgment. All right. So red tape leads to corruption and distorts a people's character. Somebody's very personal view. It has to be a judgment. And 4 says every red tape procedure is a point of contact with an official, and such contacts have the potential to become opportunities for money to change hands. They have the potential. Please don't ignore this word. They have the potential. Right? You have the potential to write the JEE exam because you are good in maths. You have the potential to crack CAT with 100 percentile because you are good in all the sections. Why am I saying so? Because I have seen from my past experience, I can tell you, people being good at English, quants, DILR, they can crack CAT with flying colors. So potential leads you to inference. I'm drawing conclusion based on my past experience. So this is an inference, hence 5 should have been the answer. Okay, so this was a question from CAT 2006. So this is something which I wanted to discuss with you so that you understand if such questions you come across, how to actually solve these questions in no time and with confidence, and what are the areas to look at. Okay, just fine-tuning your analysis and you will come good with these questions. Okay, now let us look at one more question in a different category. Now we are going to talk about the summary-based questions. Back to the main CAT solving question pattern. Okay, these are some of the questions. These kind of questions, they have always been a part of CAT. Okay, for a long time, summary-based questions, they have been the main highlight of the VA section of CAT. Okay, you have done quite a few questions. Let us see if we could bring home the answer correctly to this question. Here comes the first response, C. Okay, Mahima. The others, please quickly key in the answer. Saurabh, I just love this emphasis of yours. Triple C, all right. Shivani, D, all right. Okay, fine. Great answers. Let us quickly read the passage. What are we talking about? Again, the passage is in the first person. Somebody talks about his opinion, his gospel of thought, his ideology and principles. Okay, and we are discussing something called classic. Okay. Classic. So we deal with this word. We talk about the various branches, shoots and offshoots of classic, what he thinks about classic and what the others think about the same word. So what does he say? He says, to me, classic means precisely the opposite of what my predecessors understood, which means he is not on the same page as his predecessors are or were. All right, he differs in view, right, with his predecessors. So what did his predecessors understand about classic. वो क्या समझते थे classic के बारे में? Okay, a work is classical by reason of its resistance to contemporaneity and supposed universality. Okay, anything which is classical has to be different from being contemporary, okay, belonging to the same time. All right, contemporary will make it current and classical will be more, it is the older version or something which is ancient. So anything which is classical cannot be contemporary, and it may not have, it should not have the universality quotient to it. Okay, who thought? The predecessors of the speaker, isn't it? All right. By reason of its capacity to indicate human particularity and difference in the past epoch. Why? On what ground are they going to be different? By reason of its capacity, of its capability to indicate human particularity and difference in the past epoch, in the past era, in the past time. Okay. So if you don't understand a particular, statement or an expression, you can always, try to guess the meaning, what is being talked about. Something human, a quality that makes, the human ideas particular, right? Or the difference in the past epoch, in the past. This is the thought process of the predecessors, and this is the thought process with which the speaker, does he agree? He does not agree. Okay. The classic is not what tells me about shared humanity, or more truthfully put, what lets me recognize myself as already present in the past. What nourishes me is the illusion, okay, that everything has been like me and has existed only to prepare the way for me. This is what he thinks of being classic. Everything has been like me and has existed to prepare the way for me. That's what he says. Instead, classic, which is what gives access to radically different forms of, look at the word instead, instead this, classic is what gives access to radically different forms of human consciousness. He thinks that human consciousness, the difference in the human consciousness is classic to him for any given generation of readers. Okay, even they would think the same as the speaker, and thereby expands for them the range of possibilities of what it means to be a human being. So there can be one more meaning or one more idea of just being, of being a human. You can have many ideas that would result in you being called a human being or I being called a human being. Look at the options. A says, the classic is able to focus on the contemporary human condition and a unified experience of human consciousness. Is this what the author means? Can this be the summary? B says, a classical work seeks to resist particularity and temporal difference even as it focuses on a common humanity. C says, a classic is a work exploring the new, going beyond the universal, the contemporary, and the notion of unified human consciousness. Okay, and D says, a classic is a work that provides access to a universal experience of the human race as opposed to radically different forms of human consciousness. So between C and D, between A and B or B and C, what do you think should be the option? Okay, so C, D, C, D, C, D. So we have a tie between C and D. Let's see which one should be the option. A question from CAT 2017. C is a much better choice than D. A is out because of one simple reason. We are not talking about classic being able to focus on the contemporary human condition and a unified experience of human consciousness. We are talking about the radically different form of human consciousness. So this word unified, right, it contradicts the theme of the passage. B talks about a classical work seeks to resist particularity and temporal difference even as it focuses on common humanity. This is not what the theme of the passage is. Temporal difference, we are not talking about it. Differences which are earthly, right? This is not what the scope of the passage is. C says a classic is a work exploring the new, going beyond the universal, the contemporary, and the notion, the idea of a unified human consciousness, right? This is what we are talking about over here. Consciousness which is, unified, not common humanity. We are talking about the consciousness. Over here, it talks about a classic is a work that provides access to universal experience of the human race as opposed to radically different forms of human consciousness. Between C and D, D was close, but because of this idea, okay, it is unified human consciousness. Okay, the difference in the radical differences in consciousness, it brings about a universal touch to it. So it all together brings the definition of classic. It puts the definition of classic in place. Hence, C should have been the choice. A CAT 2017 question, an excellent question to answer. Okay, an excellent question to read and practice. All right. So these were two questions on critical reasoning, summary based question, and then there is one more question, okay, on critical reasoning. I thought we would move to parajumbles. So this is one question that I want you people to answer. First one was very interesting. The second one talks about something different. Let's see how do we tackle this question. Absolutely right, Shivani. This is not mentioned in the passage, exploring the new. Okay, can we have the answers, please? Quickly, can we have the answers? Let's look at the question. The question says, all right. Yes, Saurav, I'll explain the question. Don't worry. Okay. So, the first question, the first passage, what is the underlying current in the passage? What is the theme? Let us understand the theme. We start talking about a society, a bourgeois society. Modern bourgeois society, said Nietzsche, was decadent and enfeebled. Okay? A philosopher or a writer, okay? According to Nietzsche, modern bourgeois society, bourgeois means middle class. A society which is middle class and simple. So modern bourgeois society, said Nietzsche, was decadent and enfeebled. It was decadent, okay, on the path of decay, okay, and enfeebled, right? Weakened, debilitated, weakened. Why? A victim of the excessive development of rational faculties. The society is being termed as being a victim of what? Excessive development of rational faculties. When you work too much on your intellect, higher education and the power of reasoning, that increases your intellectuality and your rational faculties, your power of thinking and differentiating, it improves with reasoning, and we become a very refined society, but that comes at a cost. And this is what the speaker talks about, okay? Excessive development of rational faculties at the expense of will and instinct. These are the two instinctive quality of human beings. We have our instincts and we have our will. But then when we talk about the development of the rational faculty, it suppresses our instinct, and that's why the society becomes decadent and enfeebled. This is what Nietzsche's claim is. All right. Against the liberal rationalist stress on the intellect, Nietzsche urged recognition of the dark, mysterious world of instinctual desires. Now, this person emphasizes on, talks about the recognition of the instinct, in the human mind. The speaker says we should work on the instinct, right, rather on our intellectual faculties, the true forces of life. And according to the speaker, these two are the true forces of life. And look at this line, smother the will with excessive intellectualizing and you destroy the spontaneity that sparks cultural creativity. So what have we done? According to the speaker, we have actually suffocated or we have tried to kill the instinct with our intellectual thinking. Okay, and if we miss out on the instinct, that will not help us grow as a culture, right? This is what the main contention of the speaker is. All right, the critical and theoretical outlook destroys the creative instincts, right? The critical and theoretical outlook, when you have a theory for everything, when you look at everything with criticism, or you are being critical about it, when you are being overly analytic about it, that destroys creative instinct. So the speaker is is a supporter of creative instincts. Understand this. For, now over here for has been used as, it shows reason, because man's manifold potential to be realized, he must forego relying on the intellect. Forego means to sacrifice. Okay, if he wants to realize his full potential, he must sacrifice intellect and nurture again the instinctual roots of human existence. So the main contention of the speaker is that man should go back to his instinct, right, rather than relying much on intellectuality. This is the theme of the passage. One says, now what is Niadze's point of view, right? What could be the summary of the passage? Okay, Niadze urges the decadent and enfeebled modern society to forego intellect and give importance to creative instincts. This is, does this, is this the point of view of Niadze? Urges what? The decadent and enfeebled modern society to forego intellect and give importance to creative instincts. B says, Niadze urges the decadent and enfeebled modern society to smother the will with excessive intellectualizing and ignite a zest for living. C says, Niadze criticizes the intellectuals for enfeebling the modern bourgeois society by not nurturing man's creative instincts. And D says, Niadze blames excessive intellectualization for the decline of modern society and suggests nurturing creative instincts instead. Most of you answered C. Some of you said D. Let us look at the answer. Right? A question from Cat 24. This is what the contention of the speaker is. See, B is outrightly eliminated. Why? Look at the line. It says, Niadze urges the decadent and enfeebled modern society to smother the will. Does Niadze want people to kill the will and instinct? This goes against the tone of the passage. The passage talks about reviving and revitalizing the instinctual roots of people, not killing it. So B is against what the passage tells you. 4 talks about something different. Niadze urges the decadent society. Urges, there is no request. The speaker is actually blaming the society. Okay? An enfeebled society to forego intellect and give importance to creative instinct. That is okay. C says, Niadze criticizes the intellectuals for enfeebling the modern bourgeois society. Right? We are not talking about the intellectuals. We are talking about intellect and instinct. So we are not blaming a person. We are blaming a concept. The speaker is blaming a concept, not a person, not intellectuals. Okay, that's why D should have been the option. Niadze blames what? Excessive intellectualization for the decline of modern society. D captures the essence of the passage most succinctly. All right, so this should have been the answer. So, before we move to the next segment, let me tell you that these questions, you need to practice them with utmost care. You have your analytical bent of mind in place. Be ready to analyze the questions properly before you finally hit the answer, right? Sometimes the answers that we are actually zeroing in on may not be the answer at all. Why? Because we may fail to understand the tone and the style of writing, right? Please figure out all the vital points that the passage has to tell you. Assimilate it. Understand the rationale behind all the points that is being talked about, and then try to drive home the answer. Okay, avoid extreme choices and read through the lines. Reading between the line always helps. Okay, so in the Parajumble section, this is the one path we have been treading on. Okay, let's do this question very quickly. Can we start talking about the combinations? Please share the sequences. All right, let us start the discussion. Let us read the parts carefully and slowly. A starts with, similarly, turning to caste, even though being lower caste is undoubtedly a separate cause of disparity. Disparity means inequality. Its impact is all the greater when the lower caste families also happen to be poor. B says belonging to a privileged class can help a woman to overcome many barriers that obstruct women from less thriving classes. C says it is the interactive presence of these two kinds of deprivation, being low class and being female, that massively impoverishes women from the less privileged classes. D says a congruence of class deprivation and gender discrimination can blight the lives of poorer women very severely. And A says gender is certainly a contributor to societal inequality, but it does not act independently of class. So clearly we can decipher from the passage that we talk about women, gender discrimination, and how women, they have a lesser role to play in the society. Or let me correct myself, this was very extreme. How women are exploited and how they are not given their fair chance in the society. Okay, so which sentence should start? Which sentence should start as the introductory one? Okay, let me show you the right option first of all. D, B, A, C, E, D, E, C, B, A. All right, okay. This question was from 2005 CAT. This is how your sequence will look like. It should be E, B, D, C, A. Why? See, E is a standalone sentence, right? It talks about, it introduces the topic gender. Okay, and what does it say? It's certainly a contributor to societal inequality. But it, don't go by the spelling, this is wrong. Okay, it should be does. It does not act independently of class. Look at B and D. What does B talk about? B says belonging to a privileged class can help a woman to overcome many barriers. So it poses a very important issue that if a woman is, if she belongs to a privileged class, right, she may not have to overcome the barriers that obstruct women from less thriving classes. If women belong to less thriving classes, they may have to overcome many barriers. So privileged class help a woman to overcome many barriers. Look at D, a congruence of class deprivation. So this class factor is further being expanded and talked about in D. A congruence, similarity of class deprivation, and gender discrimination. This is negative. Class deprivation, this is also negative. Gender discrimination can blight the lives of poorer women very severely. What happens if a woman belongs to the lower strata of the society? All right, so BD is definitely a combo. Okay, it's a mandatory pair. Okay, Look at C. C talks about it is the interactive presence of these two kinds of deprivation. These two kinds of deprivation, which is being talked about in D. Okay. So C follows D. So DC also is a mandatory pair. Okay. Followed by A. This has to be the concluding statement. Similarly, turning to caste, D talks about deprivation and gender discrimination, and A adds one more point to it. Similarly, the third point, turning to caste, even though being lower caste is undoubtedly, right, it should be is undoubtedly a separate cause of disparity. Its impact is all the greater when the lower caste families, okay, also happens to be the poor. Also happens to be poor. So A should have been the last sentence or the concluding sentence of the paragraph. So EBDCA should have been the right answer choice. Okay. So we have seen different kinds of questions today and how to answer these questions pretty smartly. Okay. You just have to have the right strategy in place, right? And I think you're going to ace CAT like anything, and you will excel in CAT with flying colors. So not to worry, keep practicing these questions, take a few mocks and keep practicing. Practice some critical reasoning questions. Every day you should be practicing around 4 to 5 different, variety of questions, so as to keep yourself in the practice, keep in the swim, be in the swim, and practice such questions every day. 4 to 5 questions will be able to see you through. All right. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. Once again, let me reiterate, last lap to CAT every day at 7 p.m. Please don't miss the bus. It is going to be a 20 sessions, power-packed sessions. Probable questions, the questions which are going to be highly probable will be discussed in the class. Every day 7 p.m. You have a session today at 7, and we are going to discuss the basics of logic and logical questions for the different CAT questions and the other exams also. Today also you have a session at 7 p.m. CAT 21, the batches are going on. Just to brush up the skills, you may join the sessions. Please don't miss the classes. All those who are interested to join CAT 22, do write into us and avail the benefits that we have to offer. All right. For the other exams, the other management exams like SNAP, NMAT and TISNET, the classes are going on, and please call on this number to know the details of the program. Talk to our counselors today, right? The other MBA exam and CAT courses, the details are right there in front of you. See screen. CAT 22, the batches are going on. If you have not enrolled, please make sure that you enroll yourself so that you don't miss out on the important sessions that are being taught in these classes. Booster session is available for CAT 21, and we are also going to start. We have started, a comprehensive session for CAT 22. Make sure that you talk to us. Call on this number to talk to our counselors, or you may write into us. Okay. This is the panel of expert faculty who are going to give you the best of the best mentorship, right? And under their mentorship, you can definitely excel in sections like English, Maths, DI and LR. They are toppers, they have turned mentors, and you have to talk to the toppers in order to know how to get going with these exam patterns and how should you practice in order to get the maximum mileage. All right. Don't forget to like the video. Please comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe the channel. Please subscribe the channel so that you don't miss out on the important videos that we have to offer. Follow us on Instagram. Please download our Telegram page today so that you are posted with the latest updates. Subscribe to our channel. You may download the BYJU'S exam prep app. It is there on Google Play. That's all from my side. See you on the other side of the story. Have a good day and goodbye.